Hi y'all, and welcome back. Today I thought I'd talk about something that I came across in some other research, and I really wanted to know, what does this even mean? If you've read many historical accounts of American Indians, especially if it discusses actual individuals, you probably come across one that is referred to by the term captain. Currently, my research includes two men, Captain John Logan and Captain George White Eyes, they are American Indian, and for some reason, this title applies to them. In the case of Logan, he signs a letter, Captain John Logan. In the case of White Eyes, there is a Pennsylvanian colonist who specifically refers to him as Captain White Eyes. So in some capacity, they're both given this title, and I ask myself, why? Clearly, these are anglicized names that they are being, referred to as in general, but what is it that captain means? It's not like they're taking this as their first name. It means something. So what? The former, Logan, he is a Mingo, which is a Ho-dé-no-sau-nee or Iroquois that lives in the Ohio River Valley. White Eyes lives not that far away. He is a Lenape or Delaware. And you don't see lieutenant, you don't see colonel. It's specifically captain. And of these men, White Eyes is universally referred to as a chief. We know that. Logan is almost universally referred to as a chief. The main exception is Richard White in his book, The Middle Ground, which states that, Logan, he's not a chief. He's just a war leader. And this kind of made me do some digging because, well, why? How do we know that? What differentiates him from White Eyes, who is a war chief? What makes him just a war leader, but he's still called captain? And there's going to be some variations, I'm sure, between different tribes. I'm not trying to say, every tribe in North America was this way. I'm not saying that. Most of the research that I have done applies to the Ho-dé-no-sau-nee, the Lenape, or the Shawnee. So keep that in mind. But essentially, a captain is a leader of the warriors. And a captain is also what is sometimes called a war chief. Not every captain, but the ones who have, accomplished a lot. They reach a high position. They are both a captain and a war chief. I saw at least one source refer to an individual as chief captain, but this is really unusual. This is not how you're typically going to see these words used. It's going to be one or the other referring to the same thing. White Eyes is very clearly a war chief. There's some instances during the American Revolution where he oversteps his role and tries to take kind of the role of what I guess you could call it a peace chief to keep things clear in this. That's not really what they're called. I'm just saying for comparison. Does this answer any of my questions about Logan? No, not really. That is a work in progress. But the thing is that this principal captain, this war chief, he has a lot of power. Moravian missionary David Zeisberger, he lived in the Ohio River Valley in the 18th century. He explained that a captain has no more right to conclude peace than a chief to begin war. They each have their role, their specific duties, their specific, what they have a right to do, and it's separate. And this is important. It shows the division of power within American Indian culture, which is a big deal. And it shows that the principal captain, specifically, he's very important within the tribe. Because not only does he have this power to declare war, but at least in some cases, he has the power to remove a chief or to appoint a new one. In describing the Ho-dé-no-sau-nee, Lewis Morgan wrote that their principal war captains were to be found among the class called chiefs, many of whom were elected to this office in reward for their military achievements. So this is just further confirmation that depending on their exploits, their experiences as a captain, they are also a chief. Whether Logan fits the bill there, I don't know. I'm still trying to figure it out. All of the contemporary sources refer to him as a chief, making me think yes. But I still haven't figured out why White says no. But what I love about all of this is that it allows us yes, to better understand just the designation of captain. What are they referring to there? But also it's a reminder of how nuanced and really advanced American Indian culture was and their politics were. They frustrated the English to no end because they didn't have the same concept of law and order or punishment for crimes. Not the same way that the English thought of it. And for the American Indians, if your relative gets hurt or killed, that you have the right to seek revenge. You don't need the permission of your chief. You don't need the permission of anyone. It is your right as an individual. Which is something that you see a lot in other respects, is that the American Indian culture has this massive respect for individual rights and freedoms. And it's not even just respect. I mean, that is how it is. The individual has this right. End of story. The chief cannot get in the way of that. The chiefs they can exert their influence, and they can advise, and they can kind of try to persuade the tribe members to go with their advice, but at the end of the day, it is up to each individual what they want to do, which is just really interesting and very different from the European powers. The American Indians, they believe that leaders should not be made wealthy by their position. Instead, all of the things that they get, as gifts, for example, that should be distributed to the people. That's one of the big complaints that the Shawnee had after the Treaty of Fort Stanwix. The Ho-dé-no-sau-nee, the Iroquois, they get all of these diplomatic gifts in exchange for ceding this land that the Shawnee didn't want to cede. But the Iroquois, they kept those to themselves. Even though the land was being given, supposedly, to the white people, and it's Shawnee land, the Shawnee aren't seeing the payment, which is a big issue here. And even though a man might be their principal chief, the warriors still had their say. The women still had their say, because that was how American Indian culture worked. And I find that really fascinating to study. So as always, I hope you found this interesting. Please let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you haven't already, hit the like button and subscribe to really help me out with this channel, and I will see y'all in the next video.